Paragraph 1. I knew something was about to blow when I found my name crossed off the project board, replaced with the word backup in greasy red marker. I had a feeling things were about to go south the moment I saw my name on the project board had been replaced with the word backup, scrawled in a thick red marker. Paragraph 2. No explanation. No warning. Just that fat red line like an obituary scribbled by a drunk toddler. There was no explanation or heads up. Just a thick red line that looked like a poorly drawn obituary by a clumsy child. Paragraph 3. I stared at it while the office hummed around me, all fake laughter and the stink of reheated tuna from someone's sad desk lunch. As the office buzzed with forced laughter and the unpleasant smell of someone's microwaved tuna lunch, I just stood there staring at the paragraph 4. Dana, my supervisor, was perched nearby at her glass-walled office, pretending to type. Eyes flicking up every few seconds just to drink in my reaction. My supervisor, Dana, sat in her glass-enclosed office, pretending to work while her eyes darted up every few moments to gauge my reaction. Paragraph 5. She wanted a show. Wanted me to march in, fists swinging, demanding answers so she could call me unstable in front of HR. She was hoping for a spectacle, wanting me to storm into her office, ready to fight, so she could label me as unstable to human resources. Paragraph 6. Instead, I did what scared her more. I smiled. Instead of reacting as she'd hoped, I did something that unnerved her even more. I simply smiled. Paragraph 7. By 2 p.m., she sauntered out, all jangly bracelets and smug energy, holding a folder so thin it looked like a practical joke. At 2 p.m., she walked out of her office with a self-satisfied swagger, her bracelets clinking, holding a folder that was so thin it seemed like a joke. Paragraph 8. She dropped it on my desk with a manicured claw. With her perfectly manicured hand, she let the folder drop onto my desk. Paragraph 9. New project, she said syrupy and loud enough for the nearby cubicles to catch every note. New project, she announced in an overly sweet voice, making sure everyone nearby could hear her. Paragraph 10. Deadline Friday. The deadline was Friday. Paragraph 11. Today was Tuesday. Today was Tuesday. Paragraph 12. The catch. But here's the twist. Paragraph 13. It was 2. Department's work slammed into one and half the data was missing. The project was a combination of 2 departments' tasks, and half the necessary data was nowhere to be found. Paragraph 14. Maybe this job's too hard for you, she sang, grinning like she'd already won. Maybe this job's too hard for you, she taunted, her smile indicating she felt she had already won. Paragraph 15. I tilted my head, studying her like a mosquito. You're too bored to slap yet. I tilted my head and looked at her as if she were an annoying insect I wasn't yet bothered enough to swat. Paragraph 16. No words, no fire, just a long, silent look that made her smirk flicker for half a second before she turned and clicked back into her fishbowl. I didn't say a word or get angry. My prolonged, silent stare made her smug grin falter for just a moment before she turned and walked back to her office, the sound of her heels echoing. Paragraph 17. The second she disappeared, I popped open the folder and felt the pit opened under me. As soon as she was out of sight, I opened the folder and my stomach dropped. Paragraph 18, mismatched spreadsheets. Outdated vendor contracts. Inside were disorganized. Spreadsheets and old vendor contracts. Paragraph 19, no point of contact. No guidance. There was no one to contact and no instructions. Paragraph 20, it wasn't a project. This wasn't a legitimate project. Paragraph 21, it was a murder scene. And Dana had handed me the bloody knife. It was a setup. And Dana had given me the tool to take the fall. Paragraph 22, I should have panicked. Should have stormed after her, waving the disaster like a battle flag. I should have panicked and confronted her, waving the disastrous project in her face like a flag of defeat. Paragraph 23. All I did was lean back, laced my fingers behind my head, and stare at the ceiling, because this was the moment I'd been waiting for. Instead, I leaned back, put my hands behind my head, and gazed at the ceiling, because this was the moment I'd been anticipating. Paragraph 24. Every slapdash critique, every helpful insult, every eye roll she weaponized in meetings. They weren't random. Her careless criticisms, her backhanded insults, and the eye rolls she used to undermine me in meetings weren't random acts. Paragraph 25. They were blueprints, a map of her ego sprawling out in front of me. They were clues, a clear map of her manipulative personality laid out before me. Paragraph 26. And now she just handed me the detonator. And now she had just given me the means to blow it all up. Paragraph 27. I didn't stay late that night, martyr myself at my desk under the flickering fluorescent lights while Dana fake yawned on her way out, loudly announcing how some people just don't have what it takes. I didn't work late and sacrifice myself at my desk under the flickering lights, nor did I listen to Dana's fake yawns and loud comments about how some people just can't handle the pressure as she left. Paragraph 28. Nope. No. Paragraph 29. I went home. Paragraph 30. I made dinner. Cooked dinner. Paragraph 31. I slept 8 glorious hours under the smug little fact she would never see coming. I got 8 hours of wonderful sleep, knowing something she couldn't possibly anticipate. Paragraph 32. I wasn't staying to finish her dirty work. I wasn't sticking around to complete her sabotage. Paragraph 33. I was staying long enough to burn the script she wrote for me, hand it to the only person who could set her career on fire faster than I ever could. Her boss. I was staying just long enough to destroy the plan she had for me and give the evidence to the one person who could end her career faster than I ever could. Her boss. Paragraph 34. And when I walked into the building the next morning, coffee in one hand and resignation letter tucked neatly in my laptop bag, I knew Dana thought she'd broken me. The next morning, as I walked into the office with my coffee and a neatly folded resignation letter in my bag, I knew Dana thought she had defeated me. Paragraph 35. Poor thing. The poor thing. Paragraph 36. She didn't even realize she wasn't holding a leash anymore. She didn't even realize she no longer had control over me. Paragraph 37. She was holding a lit fuse. She was holding a lit fuse. Paragraph 38. Wednesday morning hit like a slow motion. Car crash. Wednesday morning arrived with a slow dreadful sense of inevitability. Paragraph 39. Dana strutted through the office like a home goods Medusa. Dana paraded through the office like a villain from a cheap movie. Paragraph 40. All fake pearls and dollar store perfume. Eyes flickering across desks to soak up whatever scraps of fear she could find. Dressed in fake pearls and cheap perfume. She scanned the desks, hoping to see fear in people's faces. Paragraph 41. When she hit mine, her lips twitched into a predator's grin. When she reached my desk, a predatory smile spread across her lips. Paragraph 42. How's that project coming, superstar? She chirped, voice dripping venom, masked in corporate sparkle. How's that project coming, superstar? She asked with a cheerful but poisonous tone, an insincere corporate smile on her face. Paragraph 43. I didn't even look up. I didn't bother to look at her. Paragraph 44. Just tapped the folder. Once with my index finger. I simply tapped the folder with my index finger. Paragraph 45. Exactly where you left it, I said, and took a slow sip of coffee like I had all the time in the world. Exactly where you left it, I replied, taking a slow sip of my coffee as if I had nothing but time. Paragraph 46. Split second. I caught it for a split second. I noticed something. Paragraph 47. A flicker of confusion right behind her fake lashes. Brief flash of confusion appeared in her eyes, hidden behind her mascara. Paragraph 48. Then she left. Paragraph 49. Loud. Forced. It was loud and unnatural. Paragraph 50. Good to know you're trying, she said, turning sharply. Good to know you're trying, she said before turning away abruptly. Paragraph 51. Heels, stabbing the carpet like she was killing spiders on her way back to her lair. Her heels clicked sharply against the carpet, like she was crushing spiders on her way back to her office. Paragraph 52. She thought she had the upper hand. Because I wasn't panicking. She believed she had the advantage because I wasn't showing any signs of panic. Paragraph 53. But that's the thing about a drowning man. You never notice he's swimming for the shark until it's too late. But that's the thing about a drowning man, the narrator thought. You never notice he's swimming towards the shark until it's too late. Paragraph 54. By lunch, the whispers had started. By lunchtime, rumors had begun to spread. Paragraph 55. It'll ripples through the cubicles. The whispers rippled through the office. Paragraph 56. Did you hear about the client review coming up? Did you hear about the upcoming client review? Paragraph 57. Upper management's doing surprise audits. Upper management is conducting surprise audits. Paragraph 58. They're pulling project logs from the last 3 months. They're reviewing project logs from the last 3 months. Paragraph 59. I heard it all without twitching because I knew something Dana didn't. I listened to everything without reacting because I was aware of something Dana wasn't. Paragraph 60. She had baked her own downfall into the company timeline like a rotting apple pie. She had unknowingly built her own demise into the company's schedule, like a ticking time bomb. Paragraph 61. every project she'd sabotaged, every unrealistic deadline, every time she forgot to forward important updates or accidentally reassigned critical tasks. It was all there. Every instance of her sabotage, every impossible deadline, every time she forgot to send crucial updates or accidentally reassigned important tasks. It was all documented. Paragraph 62, times traceable, obvious to anyone who wasn't a blind idiot or an HR intern, hopped up on Duncan was time-stamped, easily traceable, and obvious to anyone who wasn't a blind fool or a clueless HR intern high on caffeine. Paragraph 63, and the best part, her boss, Mr. Lowell, the same man Dana gushed over during meetings like a middle schooler with a Lisa Frank bender, was back in the office after a 3-week corporate training trip. And the best part was that her boss, Mr. Lowell, same man Dana used to fawn over in meetings, was back in the office after a 3-week training trip. Paragraph 64. He wasn't taking emails today. He wasn't checking his email today. Paragraph 65 was walking the floor old school style. He was walking around the office in the old-fashioned way. Paragraph 66, suit jacket slung over one shoulder, coffee in one hand, clipboard in the other. He had his suit jacket slung over one shoulder, a coffee in one hand, and a clipboard in the other. Paragraph 67. And around 2 p.m. when the panic was ripe enough, you could bottle it, Dana popped her head over my cubicle wall like a drunk mercot. Around 2 p.m., when the office was filled with a palpable sense of anxiety, Dana peered over my cubicle wall like a drunken merkat. Paragraph 68. Quick update, she said, voice too bright. Quick update, she said with a voice that was too cheerful. Paragraph 69. Need you to print all your progress notes. I need you to print all your progress notes. Paragraph 70. Just in case Mr. Lowell stops by. Just in case Mr. Lowell drops by. Paragraph 71. I leaned back slowly, letting the chair squeal under my weight, and raised an eyebrow. I leaned back in my chair, allowing it to squeal under my weight, and raised an eyebrow. Paragraph 72. Progress. Paragraph 73. I made my voice loud enough for the nearby sales guys to hear. Made sure my voice was loud enough for the sales team nearby to hear. Paragraph 74. My progress on the project you assigned yesterday with half the data missing after pulling me off the board for no reason. My progress on the project you assigned yesterday that's missing half its data after you inexplicably took me off the other project. Paragraph 75. Dana's smile cracked a little at the edges. Dana's smile faltered slightly. Paragraph 76. A few desks over, someone coughed awkwardly. A person at a nearby desk coughed uncomfortably. Paragraph 77. Papers are USTLED. Papers are USTLED. Paragraph 78. Eyes flicked up from monitors, pretending not to listen while drinking in every goddamn syllable. People's eyes darted up from their screens, pretending not to listen while absorbing every word. Paragraph 79. Dana's nails clicked against the edge of my cubicle. Dana's nails tapped on the edge of my cubicle wall. Paragraph 80. Don't need to be defensive, she hissed, voice low. Don't be so defensive, she hissed in a low voice. Paragraph 81. Now we're a team, remember? We're a team now, remember? Paragraph 82. I smiled, a slow, steady funeral smile. I gave her a slow, deliberate smile that felt like a funeral. Paragraph 83. The kind of team where you neigh up your players and wonder why no one's winning. The kind of team where you injure your own players and then wonder why no one's winning. I thought. Paragraph 84. Her cheeks flushed just a touch too red to be casual. Her cheeks turned a shade of red that was a little too obvious. Paragraph 85. Just print what you have, she snapped, and disappeared in a clatter of cheap jewelry. Just print what you have, she snapped before storming away, the sound of her cheap jewelry clattering. Paragraph 86. I waited exactly 4 minutes, long enough for her to feel like she'd won again, then grabbed my bag, tucked the 2-week notice deep into the file I'd prepped the night before, and headed for Mr. Lowell's office. I waited exactly 4 minutes, giving her enough time to feel like she'd won. Then I grabbed my bag, put my 2-week notice deep inside the folder I had prepared the night before, and walked to Mr. Lowell's office. Paragraph 87. No rush, no drama, just steady steps and the cold, clear knowledge that every second ticking by was another rope tightening around Dana's neck. I wasn't rushing or being dramatic. My steps were calm and steady, and I knew with certainty that every passing second was tightening the noose around Dana's neck. Paragraph 88. And when I tapped gently on his doorframe and he looked up with that polite managerial curiosity, I said exactly 6 words. When I gently tapped on his doorframe and he looked up with a polite professional curiosity, I said exactly 6 words. Paragraph 89. Got a minute? Got a minute? Paragraph 90. It's important. Paragraph 91. He nodded, waved me in. He nodded and gestured for me to come in. Paragraph 92. Behind me, out in the open plan graveyard of fake smiles and quiet desperation, Dana was still playing Queen of a Crumbling Castle. Behind me, in the open, office filled with fake smiles and silent desperation, Dana was still acting like the queen of a failing kingdom. Paragraph 93. She didn't even see the wrecking ball walking away from her yet. She didn't realize that her downfall was walking right past her. Paragraph 94. Mr. Lell motioned for me to sit, setting his coffee down like he already knew this wasn't going to be a casual chat about weekend plans. Mr. Lowell gestured for me to sit, placing his coffee down as if he knew this wouldn't be a casual chat about the weekend. Paragraph 95. Eyes down, slow, deliberate, feeling the weight of 3 weeks of venom itching to pour out. I sat down slowly and intentionally, feeling the urge to unleash 3 weeks of pent-up frustration. Paragraph 96. But, I didn't spill it, but I held it back. Paragraph 97. Not yet. Not yet. Paragraph 98. No tantrum. No drama. No emotional outbursts. No drama. Paragraph 99. Just the neat little folder sliding across his oak desk, like a silent bomb with the pin already pulled inside. Instead, I slid the neat folder across his oak desk. It felt like a silent bomb with the pin already pulled. Paragraph 100. Everything. Everything. Paragraph 101. Every sabotaged project, every impossible deadline, every gaslighting email where Dana called my concerns unfounded negativity and personal deficiencies, every project she'd sabotaged, every unreasonable deadline, every email in which she dismissed my concerns as unfounded negativity and personal deficiencies. Paragraph 102. I watched his eyes scan the first few pages. Watched as his eyes scanned the first few pages. Paragraph 103. The crease between his eyebrows deepened. The furrow in his brow grew deeper. Paragraph 104. The coffee grew cold in his hand. The coffee in his hand went cold. Paragraph 105. I'm submitting my 2-week notice, I said quietly. I'm submitting my 2-week notice, I said quietly. Paragraph 106. I was commenting on the weather. Said it as calmly as if I were talking about the weather. Paragraph 107. But I figured it was only fair you saw why. But I thought it was only fair that you understood why. Paragraph 108. He didn't say anything for a long beat. He remained silent for a long moment. Paragraph 109. Just kept flipping pages, lips pressed in a tight, bloodless line. He continued to turn pages, his lips pressed into a tight, pale line. Paragraph 110. Then he asked, without looking up, why come to me first instead of HR? Without looking up, he asked, why did you come to me first instead of HR? Paragraph 111. I leaned forward, dropped my voice low enough that even the walls would have to lean in to hear it. I leaned forward and lowered my voice so that even the walls would have had to strain to hear me. Paragraph 112. Because Dana's been polishing her version of this story since the day she started setting me up. Because Dana has been perfecting her version of this story since the day she started setting me up. Paragraph 113. Char's going to get it wrapped in a bow with just enough fake tears to make it believable. HR is going to get a neatly packaged narrative with just enough fake tears to make it convincing. Paragraph 114. You deserve to see the real one first. You deserve to see the truth first. Paragraph 115. That got his attention. Paragraph 116. His hand froze mid-turn of a page. His hand stopped in the middle of turning a page. Paragraph 117. He finally looked up at me. Really looked, and I saw the calculation firing behind his glasses, like a man mentally rearranging the chessboard and realizing he'd been 2 moves from checkmate without even knowing it. He finally looked up at me, truly seeing me, and I could see the wheels turning in his mind like a chess player realizing he was about to be checkmated without ever knowing it. Paragraph 118. Can you stay another 30 minutes? Can you stay another 30 minutes? Paragraph 119. He asked. Paragraph 120. After your shift, nodded once, didn't trust myself to speak without the spite leaking out. After he said, after your shift, I nodded once, not trusting myself to speak without letting my bitterness show. Paragraph 121. He slid the folder back to me. Firm and final. He firmly and definitively slid the folder back to me. Paragraph 122. Hold on to this and don't say a word to Dana until we've talked. Hold on to this and don't say a word to Dana until we've talked. Paragraph 123. I stood up, left his office with my pulse thrumming so loud I swear it rattled the cheap drop ceiling tiles. I got up and left his office, my heart pounding so loudly I felt it could shake the cheap ceiling tiles. Paragraph 124. Out in the bullpen. Dana was lurking near the break room, laughing too hard at something on her phone, and to pretend she hadn't been pacing like a coke-up terrier for the last 10 minutes. Out in the office. Dana was loitering near the break room, laughing a little too loudly at her phone to pretend she hadn't been nervously pacing like an anxious terrier for the past 10 minutes. Paragraph 1. Locked for half a second as I passed. Our eyes met for a fleeting moment as I walked by. Paragraph 126. She smirked, still thinking she was ahead. Still thinking this was another day she'd grind me a little closer to quitting out of shame. She smirked, still believing she had the upper hand and that this was just another day she'd push me closer to quitting out of shame. Paragraph 127. But I smiled back, slow and easy, and something in her smug little face twitched because even a snake knows when the temperature changes. But I smiled back slowly and calmly, and a muscle in her face twitched, because even a snake can sense a change in the environment. Paragraph 128. The clock dragged toward 5, like it had bricks tied to its ankles, but filtered out, jackets slung over shoulders, gossip simmering low under the hum of vending machines and dying fluorescent lights. The clock slowly ticked toward 5, as if it were weighed down, and people began to leave. Jackets slung over shoulders. Their quiet gossip mingling with the hum of vending machines and the dim fluorescent lights. Paragraph 129. Dana Fate packed her bag twice, clearly trying to accidentally bump into Mr. Lowell on her way out. Dana pretended to pack her bag twice, obviously hoping to accidentally run into Mr. Lowell on her way out. Paragraph 130. No dice, no such luck. Paragraph 131. And when 5:05 rolled around, the intercom cracked to life with 4 sharp words, Dana, conference room 2. And at 5:05, the intercom suddenly buzzed to life with 4 sharp words. Dana, conference room 2. Paragraph 1p32. The whole office went still. The entire office froze. Paragraph 133. Phones stopped clicking. Phones stopped clicking. Paragraph 134. Even the god air conditioner seemed to hold its breath. Even the air conditioner seemed to hold its breath. Paragraph 135. And I blinked real slow like a cow smelling the slaughterhouse for the first time. And I blinked slowly like a cow realizing for the first time it was headed to the slaughterhouse. Paragraph 136. She smoothed her skirt, tossed her hair, and walked. She smoothed her skirt, flipped her hair, and began to walk. Paragraph 137. I didn't move, just sat at my desk, hands folded, watching her disappear through the frosted glass doors where Mr. Lowell was already waiting. Arms crossed, I stayed in my chair, hands folded, and watched her disappear through the frosted glass doors where Mr. Lowell was waiting for her. Arms crossed. Paragraph 138. 15 minutes passed. 15 minutes passed. Paragraph 139. Then 20. Then 30. Then 20. Then 30. Paragraph 140. And when the doors finally opened, Dana came out first, face white, makeup cracked at the edges like an old mask about to slide off. When the doors finally opened, Dana came out first, her face pale, and her makeup looked like an old cracking mask. Paragraph 141. Didn't look at me, didn't look at anyone. Just belined for her desk, yanked open a drawer, and started shoving things into her purse like a woman trying to outrun a fire. She didn't look at me or anyone else. She made a beeline for her desk, yanked a drawer open, and began frantically stuffing things into her purse as if she were trying to escape a fire. Paragraph 142. And brother, that was when I knew I hadn't just quit. And at that moment, I knew I hadn't just resigned. Paragraph 143. I'd started a goddamn exorcism. I'd initiated a exorcism. Paragraph 144. Dana's hands were shaking so bad she dropped her coffee mug. Dana's hands were trembling so much that she dropped her coffee mug. Paragraph 145. That hideous pink one that screamed #boss in Comic Sans. The ugly pink mug that had the words girl boss on it in a childish font. Paragraph 146. And it shattered across the floor like a gunshot in the dead silence. It shattered on the floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the now silent office. Paragraph 147. Nobody moved to help. No one moved to help her. Paragraph 148. Not her little clique of suck-ups from accounting. Not her little group of sycophants from accounting. Paragraph 149. Not the admin she used to bully into triple booking meetings by mistake. Not the admin she used to bully into making mistakes with her schedule. Paragraph 150. Hell. Even the intern Dana used to scream at for breathing too loud, pretended she didn't see. Even the intern Dana used to yell at for breathing too loudly, pretended not to notice. Paragraph 151. She was radioactive. Now, she was toxic now. Paragraph 152. Everyone could smell it. Everyone could sense her downfall. Paragraph 153. She grabbed the essentials. She grabbed only the most important items. Paragraph 154. Laptop, makeup bag, a crumpled manila folder that looks suspiciously like a last ditch. But look how great I am. Her laptop, makeup bag, and a crumpled manila folder that looked suspiciously like a look how great I am portfolio. Paragraph 155. Portfolio. No goodbye speeches, fake tears, no fake promises about exciting new opportunities, just the frantic shuffle of a woman trying to salvage whatever scraps of dignity she hadn't already set on fire. She didn't say any goodbyes, shed any fake tears, or make any false promises about new opportunities. She just frantically gathered her things. A woman trying to save what little dignity she had left. Paragraph 156. I sat there still, letting the scene burn into my memory. I stayed put, allowing the scene to be seared into my memory. Paragraph 157. Not gloating, not sneering, just watching. I wasn't gloating or sneering. I was simply watching. Paragraph 158. Because that's the thing about people like Dana. Because that's the reality with people like Dana. Paragraph 159. They don't believe they can lose until their whole empire's in ashes. They don't believe they can fail until their entire world has been reduced to ashes. Paragraph 160. She finally yanked her purse strap over her shoulder, turned to leave, then made the mistake of glancing back at me. She finally pulled her purse strap over her shoulder, turned to leave, and then made the mistake of looking back at me. Paragraph 161. For a second, the whole mask cracked. For a moment, her entire facade crumbled. Paragraph 162. The queen bee, the office bully, the mentor who only wanted to see me grow, the queen bee, the office bully, the mentor who only wanted to see me succeed. Paragraph 163. All of it dropped away. All of that fell away. Paragraph 164. And under it, just a scared, desperate woman who realized way too late that the people you step on when you're climbing up are the same ones waiting at the bottom when you fall. Beneath the facade was just a terrified, desperate woman who had realized far too late that the people she stepped on to climb were the same ones who would be waiting for her when she fell. Paragraph 165. Our eyes locked. Our eyes met. Paragraph 166. And I gave her the smallest, slowest nod you've ever seen. And I gave her the slowest nod you could imagine. Paragraph 167. Not a goodbye. It wasn't a goodbye. Paragraph 168. Not even a screw you. It wasn't even an insult. Paragraph 169. Just a quiet confirmation of the truth. It was simply a quiet acknowledgement of the truth. Paragraph 170. You did this to yourself. You did this to yourself. Paragraph 171. She bolted. She ran. Paragraph 172. No farewell emails. No best wishes. No let's stay in touch. No farewell emails. No well wishes. No let's stay in touch. Paragraph 173. Just the sound of the glass door sucking shut behind her, sealing the tomb she built with her own damn hands. Just the sound of the glass door closing behind her, sealing the tomb she had built for herself. Paragraph 174. Mr. Lowell stepped out of the conference room a minute later, papers in hand, looking like a man who just finished dragging a raid dog out of his backyard. A minute later, Mr. Lowell came out of the conference room with papers in his hand, looking like a man who had just wrestled a rabid dog out of. Paragraph 236. He asked. Paragraph 237. I stood up, heart steady. I stood up, my heart calm. Paragraph 238. He shook my hand, firm, direct. He shook my hand with a firm, direct grip. Paragraph 239. Thank you, he said. Thank you, he said. Paragraph 240. Not just for your work, but for your patience, for handling it the right way, not just for your work, but for your patience and for handling this the right way. Paragraph 241. I shrugged, smiled a little. I shrugged and gave a small smile. Paragraph 242. Some things clean themselves up. If you just stop carrying their garbage, some things clean themselves up if you just stop carrying their baggage. Paragraph 243. He chuckled low and real. He let out a low, genuine chuckle. Paragraph 244. Fair enough, he said. Fair enough, he said. Paragraph 245. If you ever need a reference, you've got one. If you ever need a reference, you have one from me. Paragraph 246. And just like that, not Dana had spent months tying around my throat snapped like old twine. And just like that, the knot Dana had spent months tying around my throat snapped like old twine. Paragraph 247. No screaming match. No soba stories. No late night rage texts. Just a simple handshake, a clean exit, and the wreckage she left smoldering in her own rear view. There were no screaming matches, no sad stories, no angry late-night texts, just a simple handshake, a clean departure, and the smoldering mess she had left for herself. Paragraph 248. And somewhere out there, Dana was waking up to a new reality. And somewhere out there, Dana was facing a new reality. Paragraph 249. One where she wasn't the big fish in a tiny pond. One where there were bigger sharks. A reality where she wasn't the biggest fish in a small pond, but where there were bigger sharks. Paragraph 250. And nobody left to shield her when the feeding frenzy started, and no one was left to protect her when the feeding frenzy began. Paragraph 251. Friday rolled in like a slow, smug parade. Friday arrived with a slow, self-satisfied feeling. Paragraph 252. My second to last day. It was my second to last day. Paragraph 253. The whole building still buzzed like an unplugged fridge. Trying to remember it had power again. The entire building still had a palpable buzz, like an unplugged refrigerator that was just starting to get its power back. Paragraph 254. People walked lighter, laughed louder. Hell. People walked with a lighter step and laughed more loudly. Paragraph 255. Even the receptionist started bringing in homemade cookies. Even the receptionist started bringing in homemade cookies. Paragraph 256. I swear Dana's ghost still lingered in the corners, but now it was more like a bad smell we were airing out. I could almost feel Dana's lingering presence, but now it was like a foul odor the office was finally airing out. Paragraph 257. I packed slow, methodical. I packed my things slowly and deliberately. Paragraph 258. A picture frame here, a couple of pens there, my lucky notebook. A picture frame here, a few pens there, my lucky notebook. Paragraph 259. When I wrote every insane Dana demand in every randomly rescheduled meeting, every constructive criticism that sounded more like a brawl starter. In which I had written down every one of Dana's crazy demands from randomly rescheduled meetings, every constructive criticism that sounded more like the start of a bar fight. Paragraph 260. Every move was calm, deliberate, not because I was sentimental, but because I wanted the next poor soul who sat at my desk to feel no trace of her. Every move I made was calm and intentional, not because I was sentimental, but because I wanted the next person to sit at my desk to find no trace of her. Paragraph 261. No fingerprints, no poison, clean slate, fresh start, no fingerprints, no poison juiced, a clean slate, and a fresh start. Paragraph 262. Around noon, a memo popped into everyone's inbox. Around noon, a memo appeared in everyone's inbox. Paragraph 263. Mandatory meeting conference room 1, 15 minutes. Mandatory meeting. Conference room 1 in 15 minutes. Paragraph 264. Subject, Department Restructured Overview. The subject was Department Restructured Overview, paragraph 265. Cue the side eyes. People exchanged knowing glances. Paragraph 266. Cue the frantic whispered math of office politics. The frantic whispered calculations of office politics began. Paragraph 267. Who's getting axed? Who's getting fired? Paragraph 268. Who's getting promoted? Who's getting promoted? Paragraph 269. Who's already polishing their LinkedIn profile in the bathroom? Who's already updating their LinkedIn profile in the bathroom? Paragraph 270. I walked in last, leaning against the doorframe with my arms folded, just close enough to watch the bloodbath without getting splashed. I walked in last, leaned against the doorframe with my arms folded, just close enough to watch the drama without getting involved. Paragraph 271. Mr. Lowell stood at the head of the room, sleeves rolled up, face all business. Mr. Lowell stood at the front of the room, sleeves rolled up, with a serious expression on his face. Paragraph 272. This department, he said, voice even is overdue for a reset. This department, he said in a calm voice, is long overdue for a reset. Paragraph 273. And then came the slaughter, and then came the change. Paragraph 274. 3 new team leads announced. None of them Dana's former pets. He announced 3 new team leads, none of whom were Dana's former favorites. Paragraph 275. A new, streamlined project pipeline designed for actual support instead of chaotic figure. He also announced a new, more efficient project process that was designed to be supportive rather than chaotic. Paragraph 276. It out deadlines. It was designed to have a clear workflow, not chaotic. Impossible deadlines. Paragraph 277. An open invitation for anyone feeling targeted or sabotaged in the past 6 months to speak confidentially without fear of retaliation. He extended an open invitation for anyone who had felt targeted or sabotaged in the last 6 months to speak confidentially without fear of retaliation. Paragraph 278. And the kicker, official acknowledgement that leadership failures had contributed to lost productivity, diminished morale, and unsafe workplace culture. And the final blow was the official acknowledgement that poor leadership had led to lost productivity, low morale, and a toxic work environment. Paragraph 279. No names, no finger pointing, just the cold clinical burial of everything. Dana built her petty empire on... He didn't name anyone or point fingers. It was a cold clinical burial of everything. Dana's petty empire was built on. Paragraph 280. The looks on some faces were priceless, especially the bootlickers who used to line up outside Dana's office like it was Studio 54, desperate for a scrap of approval. The looks on some faces were priceless, especially the sycophants who used to wait outside Dana's office like it was an exclusive club, desperate for her approval. Paragraph 281. Now they shifted uncomfortably, eyes glued to the carpet, realizing the gravy train had not only derailed, but was on fire and rolling downhill toward a swamp. Now they shifted uncomfortably, their eyes on the floor, realizing their free ride had not only ended but had also crashed and was now on fire and heading for a swamp. Paragraph 282. And me. And me. Paragraph 283. I just stood there silent, watching a whole ecosystem implode. I just stood there silently, watching an entire system collapse. Paragraph 284. Dana thought she was the architect. Dana thought she was the architect of her success. Paragraph 285. Turns out she was the termite queen. And someone finally called pest control. It turned out she was a parasite, and someone had finally called pest control. Paragraph 286. Meeting. Adjourned. The meeting was adjourned. Paragraph 287. People scattered like spooked pigeons. People scattered like frightened pigeons. Paragraph 288. I took my sweet time heading back to my desk, feeling the weight of every bitter, beautiful second settle into my bones. I took my time walking back to my desk, feeling the weight of every bitter and beautiful second settling into my bones. Paragraph 289. 2 more days. 2 more days. Paragraph 290. That was all I had left. That's all I had left. Paragraph 291. But Dana, she'd already served her sentence. But Dana had already paid her price. Paragraph 292. Exiled. Erased. Forgotten. Exiled. Erased. Forgotten. Paragraph 293. And somehow the silence she left behind screamed louder than any tantrum she could have thrown. And the silence she left behind was more impactful than any outburst she could have had. Paragraph 194. That night, I grabbed a six-pack, kicked off my boots, and sat on my crappy couch like a king surveying a quiet, conquered kingdom. That night, I got a six-pack of beer, took off my boots, and sat on my old couch like a king surveying his newly conquered quiet kingdom. Paragraph 295. The emails still trickled in. Some from old co-workers I barely knew. Emails still came in. Some from former co-workers I barely knew. Paragraph 296. Dude, thank you. Dude, thank you. Paragraph 297. Have no idea how bad it got after you left the meetings. I had no idea how bad the meetings got after you left. Paragraph 298. It's like we're breathing air again. It's like we can breathe again. Paragraph 299. I didn't answer most of them. I didn't respond to most of them. Paragraph 300. Didn't need to. I didn't need to. Paragraph 301. They weren't thank yous anyway. They weren't really thank yous anyway. Paragraph 302. They were survivors crawling off a wreck and blinking at the sun for the first time. They were survivors crawling out of a wreckage and seeing the sun for the first time. Paragraph 303. I wasn't their hero. Wasn't their hero. Paragraph 304. I was just the guy who cracked the door open when no one else had the balls to somewhere between the second and third beer. I was just the person who opened the door for them when no one else had the courage to. Sometime between my second and third beer, Paragraph 305. My phone buzzed again. My phone buzzed again. Paragraph 306. A known number. A familiar number. Paragraph 307. No. Voicemail. No. Voicemail. Paragraph 308. Just a missed call. Just a missed call. Paragraph 309. Stared at it for a long moment, letting the beer sweat into my palm. I stared at it for a long moment, feeling the cold beer bottle in my hand. Paragraph 310. Then another buzz. Then another buzz. Paragraph 311. This time, a text. This time, a text message. Paragraph 312. I just wanted to talk, please. I just wanted to talk, please. Paragraph 313. No name, no pleasantries. But I didn't need a caller ID to know who it was. There was no name or greeting. But I didn't need a caller ID to know who it was. Paragraph 314. Dana, she must have gotten my personal number from some old emergency contact sheet buried deep in the HR files she used to hover over like a vulture on a carcass. It was Dana. She must have gotten my personal number from an old emergency contact sheet that she had once been obsessed with. Paragraph 315. And now she was circling me, and now she was circling back to me. Paragraph 316. I let the phone sit there. Paragraph 317. The words burn into the screen like cheap neon. The words were a cheap, glaring neon sign. Paragraph 380. No. Talk. Paragraph 319. Now she wanted to talk. Paragraph 320. After months of trying to humiliate me in front of the whole department, after setting deadlines so impossible, I spent weekends hunched over spreadsheets instead of living like a human being. After months of trying to humiliate me in front of the entire department. After giving me such impossible deadlines that I spent my weekends hunched over spreadsheets instead of living my life. Paragraph 321. After every sideways comment, every thinly veiled, maybe you're not cut out for this dagger, she drove in while smiling with all her teeth. After every sideways comment and every subtle jab she made, suggesting I wasn't good enough while smiling the entire time. Paragraph 322. I picked up the phone, typed 2 words. Paragraph 323. Too late. Paragraph 324. Send blocked the number. Set the phone down like a dead thing. And that was . I sent the message, blocked her number, and set the phone down like it was a useless object. That was it. Paragraph 325. No dramatic speeches. No screaming matches where she could twist the narrative into some tragic misunderstanding. There were no dramatic speeches or screaming matches where she could twist the story into a tragic misunderstanding. Paragraph 326. Just a cold, clean severing. Just a cold, clean cut. Paragraph 327. Because sometimes the most savage revenge isn't slamming the door. Because sometimes the most savage revenge isn't about slamming a door in someone's face. Paragraph 328. It's locking it so tight they break their nails. Clawing at it. It's about locking the door so tightly that they break their nails trying to get back in. Paragraph 329. And you don't even bother turning your head. And you don't even bother to look back. Paragraph 330. I took another sip of beer, leaned back, listened to the quiet hum of my freedom stretching out ahead of me. I took another sip of beer, leaned back, and listened to the quiet hum of my freedom stretching out before me. Paragraph 331. Tomorrow would be my last day. Tomorrow would be my last day. Paragraph 332. 1. Final walk through the building where I buried the ghost of a bully. One last walk through the building where I had put the ghost of a bully to rest. Paragraph 333. And God, I couldn't wait. And I couldn't wait. Paragraph 334. I woke up on my last day with a feeling I hadn't tasted in months. On my last day. I woke up with a feeling I hadn't felt in months. Paragraph 335. Peace, 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 dot. Paragraph 336. No, not in my stomach, dot. There was no not in my stomach, dot. Paragraph 337. No, Dana stalking my inbox like a digital poltergeist, dot. No, Dana haunting my inbox like a digital ghost. Paragraph 338. Just a sunrise, a hot shower, and the steady beat of a man walking into a funeral. He didn't have to attend because he already knew who was in the coffin. Just a sunrise, a hot shower, and the calm feeling of a man walking into a funeral. He didn't have to attend because he already knew who was in the coffin. Paragraph 339. When I stepped into the office, it wasn't quiet like before. When I arrived at the office, it wasn't quiet like it had been. Paragraph 340. It was alive. Real conversations. It was alive with real conversations. Paragraph 341. Laughter. That didn't sound forced. Laughter that didn't sound fake. Paragraph 342. The kind of cautious hope that grows after a wildfire burns the dead wood away. The kind of cautious hope that grows after a wildfire has cleared out the dead wood. Paragraph 343. I took my time doing one last slow lap at the floor, not to say goodbye, just to remember, really remember what survival looks like. I took my time doing one last slow walk around the office, not to say goodbye, but to remember what survival felt like. Paragraph 344. I dropped a few files off an archive, cleaned out my inbox, set my out-of-office message. I dropped off a few files in the archives, cleaned out my inbox, and set my out-of-office message. Paragraph 345. I am no longer with the company. I am no longer with the company. Paragraph 346. Wishing you all the best, especially now. Wishing you all the best, especially now. Paragraph 347. And finally, at exactly 4:55 p.m., I stood up, grabbed my half-empty box of junk, and headed for the elevators. And finally, at exactly 4:55 p.m., I stood up, grabbed my half-empty box of personal items, and walked to the elevators. Paragraph 348. As I passed reception, the new temp, a breachhead kid who didn't know the bow field he was sitting on just 2 weeks ago, waved Sheila. As I passed the reception desk, the new temp, a bright-eyed kid who had no idea how toxic the environment had been just 2 weeks ago, waved shyly. Paragraph 349. I nodded back. I nodded back. Paragraph 350. Poor bastard didn't even realize he'd narrowly dodged a bullet bigger than his entire career. The poor guy didn't even realize he had narrowly avoided a disaster that was bigger than his entire career. Paragraph 351. I reached the lobby and stepped into the sunlight like a man walking out of prison after a 10-year bid. I reached the lobby and walked into the sunlight like a man being released from prison after 10 years. Paragraph 352. Warm, clean, free. I felt warm, clean, and free. Paragraph 353. But right as the glass door started sliding closed behind me, I caught a glimpse out of the corner of my eye across the street, half shadowed behind a bus stop ad. But just as the glass doors began to close behind me, I caught a glimpse of her across the street, half hidden behind a bus stop ad. Paragraph 354. Dana hair pulled back to tight dot. It was Dana, her hair pulled back to tightly dot. Paragraph 355. Makeup cracked at the corners. Her makeup was cracked at the corners of her eyes. Paragraph 356. Cheap, wrinkled blazer that looked 2 sizes too big for the confidence she used to fake she was wearing. A cheap, wrinkled blazer that looked 2 sizes too big for the confidence she used to pretend to have. Paragraph 357. She wasn't watching me, was watching the building. She wasn't watching me. She was watching the building. Paragraph 358. Watching a life she torched with her own damn hands. She was watching the life she had destroyed with her own hands. Paragraph 359. And realizing there wasn't a single ember left to rebuild from, she clutched a manila folder to her chest like a life raft nobody was coming to save her with, and realizing there was nothing left to salvage. She clutched a manila folder to her chest like a life raft, but no one was coming to save her. Paragraph 360. No new job, no backup plan, no bigger opportunity waiting in the wings. Just a long walk home with nothing but the ashes of what she thought was power. There was no new job, no backup plan, no better opportunity waiting. Just a long walk home with nothing but the ashes of what she once believed was her power. Paragraph 361. I didn't wave, didn't nod, didn't even slow down, just shoved my sunglasses on, tilted my face to the sun, and kept walking one step then. Another, every footfall slamming the door tighter behind me. I didn't wave, nod, or even slow down. I just put on my sunglasses, turned my face to the sun, and kept walking, each step a final closing of the door behind me. Paragraph 362. Because some people, they don't deserve a confrontation. Because some people don't deserve a confrontation. Paragraph 363. They deserve an ending so quiet, so final that the silence itself becomes the loudest thing they'll ever hear. They deserve an ending so quiet and final that the silence itself is the loudest thing they'll ever experience. Paragraph 364. And me, I wasn't angry anymore. As for me, I wasn't angry anymore. Paragraph 365. I wasn't sad. I wasn't sad. Paragraph 366. I wasn't anything. I wasn't anything. Paragraph 367. I was done. I was done. Paragraph 368. And brother, sometimes done is the most beautiful thing a man can, and sometimes being done is the most beautiful feeling in the world.